This video is going to detail my process for writing my sapphic web series, Her Kisses So Last Season. You can definitely pick some things up from it, and I will give some tips, but it's not a universal guide. No matter the video, don't be afraid to create your own writing process that works especially well for you. This video is intended for a more visual format, so if you're writing a novel...
I'm afraid your journey ends here, traveler. I'll be taking whatever you're carrying. After you're dead, of course.
I'm just kidding. Some of it might help, but maybe not. I'm gonna walk you through how I wrote the first episode. So daydreaming, brainstorming, outlining, scripting, revision, and review. And the secret behind why writing for Her Kiss didn't take a lot of work. This is probably the most fun, and it's a very valuable point in the process. This is a step where you just listen to music and you imagine the characters and the world. You get a feel for the story and you get motivated to create it. And you kind of start understanding the kind of story that you want to tell. Do you picture a lot of blood and death? Are the characters always being cute and wholesome? Are they always having dramatic moments, screaming matches, and throwing things at each other? Think about what you love about this new idea and how it's different from your other ones. There's no rules for this stage, which is part of why it's so fun. You're just supposed to get lost in your own head and watch things play out like a movie. Get yourself invested and excited to write, but I do have a few tips. I recommend listening to musical songs in particular when thinking about your story because they're each really specific to their own plot. And a line that they sing may give you an idea for your characters. Maybe you decide you want character A to be hopelessly pining because you listened to this song. Or maybe this song gave you the idea to have your soldier character lean into their darker side. I listen to regular music when I already have a good understanding of the characters and how they feel, but musicals give me new ideas. Something else I recommend is audios. I also listen to dialogue from movies, games, memes, almost anything to help me visualize the characters. For example, my character Severa struggles with an eating disorder in the latter part of season 1. She developed early, and so people always fixated on her figure. Teachers, fellow students, and men who were much older than her. And it's really damaged how she views her body. I pictured her with this dialogue in the daydreaming phase.
Flowers? Want any damn flowers? Just go home already.
Mary, what are you saying?
Look, I'm disgusting. I don't deserve flowers. Between the disease and the drugs, I look like a monster. What are you looking at? Get the hell out of here. Leave me alone already.
This audio helped me feel for her as a character and understand the direction I wanted to take her pain, even though it's about a completely different situation.
Big boobs? What?
There are also voice actors on TikTok creating audio specifically to show off their skills and for your OCs. So far, I found @SillyShadow and @DoofGuyVA.
All right, so what if I told them not to leave the house that day? Could I do that?
You could.
Or I could make sure they never even met that person at all. Then none of this would have happened.
So, even after all this, after all the pain and turmoil, you'd still try to kill me.
Heart to heart.
I'm sure there are more voice actors who do this, but these are the only two that I've found so far. But if you guys know any other voice actors who do this, please tell me because it's kind of niche and hard to find more of. But there are also actors in general who use dramatic audios from different shows. Hetty Spaghetti is one that I found recently, but just look at actor TikTok in general to find these audios. You can also find scenes from movies and TV shows on YouTube. In Project CD, this character gets extremely upset with this character and feels very betrayed by him for reasons I cannot disclose, but they get separated for 4 years, and when they meet again, they are not happy with him. So I sought out audios specifically about betrayal and abandonment.
Have to believe me, I did everything I could.
Yeah? Then why didn't you call me? Huh? 20 years, you didn't call me.
Look, I wanted to, but I didn't think...
You know what it was like for me? I had nobody. Everybody left.
It's not my fault you got fired.
I don't care about the job! I did fine. I had a good life. But what I needed then was a friend. And you abandoned me. And I will never forgive you for that. Now get the fuck out of my house.
These audios really help me get in the mindset of that sort of betrayal, and sometimes I revisit them to remind myself of that hurt. But in short, musicals, audios, and movie scenes, they all help with daydreaming. This is where we bullet point all of our ideas, come up with new ones, and see what we have. I wrote down every single idea, every piece of dialogue that I loved, every plot event from the daydreaming phase. I tried to keep it in order, but it was most important for me to see it out in front of me so I could really start understanding the kind of story that I had and start connecting everything. During this stage, I recommend that you find out your genre, the theme, or the message. Is this a horror story, a romance, a fantasy romance? What is it? As for the theme and the message, what are you trying to get across to the audience? What's the lesson? What's something that you're making a commentary on? In Her Kiss, there's a lot of commentary on comphet, or compulsory heterosexuality. Basically, the pressure some women feel to be in a straight relationship to feel normal, meet expectations, or unknowingly feel safer. As for the genre, it's a few things. A young adult romance, drama with themes of self-discovery and individualism. And the message is, popularity or too much attention can do more harm than good. A part of growing up is realizing who you are and being content with that person. And trying to appease other people can make you lose yourself or the people you really care about. I put a few images in my document for the project and wrote some character descriptions. I wish I had made a mood board for the story, and that's what I recommend you do to get a visual understanding of the project. Maybe make mood boards for the characters too. You can do this with Canva, it's free. For Her Kiss, I sat and wrote things out from my brainstorm, but for Project CD, I get better results when I brainstorm out loud. There's a few different ways to do it, and maybe change it up if one way works better for a different story. Now for outlining, I would say that this was the hardest point in the process for me. We have to take all these events and plot them into chapters or episodes. We're officially putting the story together. How does it start? What's in the middle? How does it end? An outline is supposed to be something you can easily reference when writing to see what's supposed to happen next. One mistake I made was using thick, long paragraphs for my first outline when I should have been using short bullet points. This makes it harder to easily refer back to the outline because you have to read through all this stuff. And I outlined in a really weird font. It's better to choose one that's easy to read at first glance. To outline for Her Kiss, I broke it down into 3 simple categories. What happens, what the audience learns, and what the characters are feeling. What happens are the events that take place in the chapter plotted in order. What the audience learns is what the reader or viewer is learning about the world or the characters. Not necessarily how the character feels, but things about them. You want to keep up with what the audience knows so you can set things up about the character's life, the setting, and not repeat information unintentionally. Character B has PTSD. Character B's mom passed away. This district uses magic. This category is not for how the character feels about those things, it's just the information itself. How the characters feel covers any emotional or internal conflict, or any character growth or character regression. Here is a very simple example. What happens? Character C catches character A and character B together. Character C devises a plan to break them up. What the audience learns: character C is controlling and manipulative, if this wasn't already established before. What the characters are feeling: character C feels jealous and angry. This is where they start to spiral. Again, this is a very simple outline template. Her Kiss is a complex story, but this template still works for me. I adjusted someone else's template because I felt like it was too much. Maybe my template is not enough for you. Maybe you want character development and internal conflict to be 2 separate categories. Change it to fit your story's needs. Let me clarify, I looked at animation and movie scripts, not comic scripts. If that's what you're writing, the rest of this isn't going to be very helpful. Comic scripts usually focus on specific directions for panels, and you're probably making it by yourself. It's made for you, so you know what to draw. But for animation and movies, other people like actors have to look at it. In these scripts, keep it short as possible while staying descriptive and making the scene immersive. You want people to understand the story and what's happening, but not get overwhelmed by all the words. It's hard to balance. It's hard to balance. I did my best in my script. When I was drafting episode 1, I used the Arial font. It felt casual and it kept me in the mindset of, this is just a draft. But when I started to feel more confident in the writing, I switched to the typewriter font, which is what most scripts use. I genuinely thought this font was dumb and hard to read. I didn't get why people used it, and I didn't want to use it. But it made my script feel more official. I got used to it and I realized it does look much better. This font is the Courier new font. If you want me to talk about script formatting in another video, let me know. I'm 90% sure I did it correctly, but I'd rather be 100% sure. In my first drafts, I mostly focused on dialogue and how I wanted to pace out the first episode. Then I started thinking about how could this be funnier? How can I make this flow better? And I brainstormed different scenes that might work better. There was dialogue and scenes that I was coming up with, but I wasn't sure how to make them work, so I just put them in a separate document just in case. A lot of those scenes I ended up using when I was stuck. Once I finished my more polished draft, I decided to print it out. Printing out your work can help you catch a lot of mistakes. I don't know the science behind it, I just know my eyes got tired staring at the screen, and seeing it in a different way helped me make a lot of corrections. And it also made me feel so professional and official. So if you have a good bit of ink and paper to spare, I'd recommend printing out your script. Or print it at the library. It's not that expensive, at least where I live. Once I printed out my script, I voice acted all the lines out loud to catch any weird dialogue or errors, but also to see how things flowed, and I plan on using these lines for the storyboard. One last thing I haven't done yet is feedback. If you have any friends or family that wouldn't mind looking at your script, then take advantage of that. I'll be honest, if your script is about dragon boys falling in love, and you know your parents are middle-aged and they just wouldn't get it or care, don't hurt your own feelings by having them look at it. Instead, ask someone that you know wants to be helpful. I would never ask my parents to look at my script because I know they'd either say nothing or start wanting to change the entire plot. I'm gonna use a Fiverr service to have my script critiqued. I know my sister would never actually read it if I asked. I did have one other friend, but she stopped talking to me. On that note, the video is almost over, but I still have to share the secret on why her kiss didn't take a lot of work, or at least less work than my usual stories. And that's because I wrote what I know.
That's it?
It really is that simple though. I'm not a 40-year-old man trying to write teen girls. I was a teen girl 3 years ago. My characters grew up in the 2000s, so did I. My characters have conflict in high school, so did I. I didn't have to research these things. I just know. That doesn't mean that just because you're a human, you have to write about humans. You can give your characters experiences similar to your own, even if it's a fantasy story. Or write about things that you have a lot of knowledge about. If you know a lot about dragons or fashion, write about that. Write what you know is a pretty common piece of writing advice that I don't think a lot of people follow, and you don't have to either. Writing what you know can make your story feel more authentic and credible, but so can extensive research, whichever you prefer. But that's it for writing a web series. I can make a brief video on script structure if you want, but the next video planned is research and character design. That video will be the start to a 7-step process in character design recommended by an actual professional who's been in the industry for at least a decade. I'm very excited to apply his process, but for now, I'm done talking. I'll see you in that video.
Vi,